If you have your Bibles, I'd like to invite you to turn with me in the Old Testament again, in the book of Ecclesiastes, and we are looking at chapter 5, verse 8, all the way down to chapter 6, verse 9. Okay? So that's chapter 5, verse 8, all the way to chapter 6, verse 9. This is also printed on pages 2 and 3 of your bulletin. Listen now to God's word from Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 8 to 6, 9. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter, for the high officials is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much. But the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. There's a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is a father, and he is father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil that he may carry away in his hand. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go. And what gain is there to him who toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness, in much vexation and sickness and anger. Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil, this is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. Chapter 6, verse 1. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all he desires. Yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, and he also has no burial, I say that a stillborn child is better off than he. For it comes in vanity and goes in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. Moreover, it has not seen the sun or known anything, yet it finds rest rather than he. Even though he should live 1,000 years twice over, yet enjoy no good, do not all go to that one place. All the toil of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. For what advantage has the wise man over the fool? And what does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living. Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering appetite, the wandering of the appetite. This also is vanity and a striving after wind. This is the word of the Lord. Next be to God. Today I'm going to talk to you about money and wealth. How many of you have problems with money? This is not a prosperity gospel sermon. You know, for some odd reason, when I was a young boy, I was fully aware of the perils of money, even back then when I didn't have any. I remember when I was around 9 or 10 years old, I was researching in the World Book Encyclopedia. Yes, kids, we didn't have Google back then. I was researching in the encyclopedia the entry on money. You see, I was so curious about money. How did humanity come to arrive at that point where we're now exchanging goods with pieces of paper and pieces and brown metals? How did we get to that point where we're using money now? And even as a young child, I knew that money, I've heard it before, money is the source. No, it's not. The love of money is the source of evil. I was acutely aware that a lot of problems arise out of, well, one way or another, having to do with money. Robert Kiyosaki says money is not everything, but it has to do with everything. And it really, in a sense, it's true. Money has to do with everything. And so I was so curious back then. 9 or 10 years old, I was flipping through the encyclopedia, trying to find who am I going to blame for all this trouble brought about by money. And so I was reading and I learned about barter trade, which seemed to my young mind back then as a sensible and relatively fair way to do commerce. I exchange with you X amount of my goods that I'm happy to part with for something that you're happy to part with. But that's barter trade. It seemed to my young mind as a very sensible option. And then from barter trade, the use of shells and other precious items where we attach value to them because, it wasn't so sensible if you produce, for example, cotton. And you would produce a lot of cotton to buy chicken. And it wouldn't be sensible that way to trade. And so at the beginnings of money, we had shells, we had precious stones, or gold and silver ingots. Okay, that's the precursors to money. And so I kept digging and I kept researching, and eventually I got to, this is it. The use of paper money, the minting of coins. And I thought I found the culprit. Do you know who were the first people to use paper money? The Chinese. I was well aware that money was problematic for people and that it caused people a lot of grief. So I was really determined to find out who invented it. And to my surprise, I found out that the geniuses behind the shift from essentially barter trade to monetize sheets of paper was done by the Chinese. It wasn't a proud moment, at least to little 10-year-old Chinese boy me. Now, I've since changed my perspective on money. I've since adopted a more, it's a necessary evil view to money. And there is some use, there's some practicality to having a monetary system. I still wish we didn't have to be so tyrannized by money, but I also see the wisdom and usefulness of having currency that represents certain values and that make transactions and accounting much easier. I think credit cards are still evil, but that's a topic for another day. But money, we cannot escape it. Everybody needs it. Like I said, like Kiyosaki says, it's not everything that has to do with everything. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that statement. And so today, as we continue in our study of Ecclesiastes, we want to consider the theme, money problems under the sun. That's why I ask you to raise your hand if you had money problems. Money problems under the sun. And here Kohelet continues, and it's quite a long section, but here he continues with his observations on life under the sun. And we've said before, under the sun is like a shorthand that Kohelet uses. The author, the preacher, Kohelet, the preacher, teacher. Okay, Kohelet is just a Hebrew term for that. He uses under the sun as a shorthand, if you will, to the pursuit or the questing for meaning and purpose and significance that pays no attention to God. So that's life under the sun. And here he continues to make observation about life, as it were. And in particular, on the many problems that money and wealth can potentially or have historically brought upon humans. And so as we consider the problem of money this morning, I'd like us to do so under three headings. And as usual, these are printed on page 3 of your bulletin. Point number one, everything requires money. Point number 2, everyone has money problems. I was surprised not everybody put up their hands earlier. Everyone has money problems. Number 3, every money problem's solution. Okay? So we're going to look at the first point, everything requires money. Second point, everyone has money problems. And then we're going to look at what Kohelet poses as the solution to every money problem. Okay? And so for the little kids, we have keywords for you again. Okay? Number 1, I want you to go home and ask your parents, Daddy, what did Pastor mean that money has wings? Does money fly? Ask your parents. Okay, number 2, Mommy, what does Pastor mean that money has thorns? Is that why you don't give me allowance? Ask your mommy. Number 3, money is a servant. Okay, so those are 3 keywords, parents, you might want to talk to your children about, maybe on your drive home, maybe this afternoon as you're lounging around with them. Money has wings, money has thorns, and money is a servant. Okay, so the 3 things we want to talk about from this passage. Let's look at point number 1. Everything requires money. Look at verse 8 and 9. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter, for the high official is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. So here Kohelet begins to talk about, he eases into the issue of wealth and poverty, first by talking about what is close to heart to many of us, government. Governments bring a semblance of order and development to the land, which is a good thing, right? The government maintains civil order. The government ideally serves the people in the realm. Okay? And so, government brings a semblance of order and development to the land. However, and this is where the ugly head of government begins to rear its head, government also requires money to operate. Right? You need to pay, as a citizen, you need to pay in order to be an upstanding member of society. And so essentially your citizenship is like a club. It's a club membership that you never signed up for. If you were born in the Philippines and your parents are Filipino citizens, boom, you're part of the club. You don't have to pay for X number of years, but eventually you will. Or they will prosecute you. You pay taxes. Okay? You have to pay in order to be to be considered a upstanding member of society, or contributing member of society. It's like you're part of a social contract that you could not refuse. And that's the parody of it, right? I mean, that's the paradox of it. If you're a citizen, and if you don't like the tax laws in your country, you can get away from that by becoming the citizen of another country, where again you'll be imposed other taxes. So there's really no way around it. You and I live and breathe within a social contract, no matter your citizenship, no matter your place of residence. Unless you're one of those, what do you call them, seasteading, those who are living out in open waters, okay, trying to be independent from all government structures. Most of us really, we're going to be under a social contract. And that social contract involves our shelling out money. But because government is also often composed of humans, and therefore flawed, greed rules the day. Red tape that leads to the oppression of the weak and the poor. And Kohelet says, don't be surprised to this. That's the way, or that is what is to be expected. In Tagalog, we have the word kalakaran. That is the way things are walked. There's corruption, there's red tape. In every level of government. That's just the way it is, he says. And so, he says, if you see in a province the oppression of the poor, violation of justice, righteousness, don't be amazed at the matter. High official, watched by a higher official. And there are yet higher ones over them. The reason there is oppression, the reason why there is a violation of justice and righteousness is because you have these people in government. And that's just the reality, Kohelet says. And we know that very well, even in our own context, isn't it? When you're trying to go and process a document, a government document, nowadays, I think because the president is trying to be hard on this, there's the 3-day deadline if you're applying for a document. But usually you'd get entangled with, oh sir, you have to photocopy this, oh, but it has to be here, you have to bring this, you have to come back, and it all involves money. And every step of the way, there are lubricants, if you understand what I mean. Okay? And he says, that's to be expected. Everything, as it were, requires money. This is true in government. This is true in your day-to-day life as well. And so, we get to verse 11 where he says, when goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? When goods increase, those who eat them also increase. And you know this well. Okay? The more money you have, the more friends and family members you gain. And it's interesting how Kohelet says it. He says, and what advantage has their owner but only to see them with his eyes. Have you ever had that experience? You see your paycheck come into your hand and it goes somewhere else. What advantage is there but just to see it? Where goods increase, also increase those who eat them. There's nothing you can do. Everything requires money. Look at chapter 6, verses 7 to 9. Very poignantly, with the beginning and now with the end, he rounds up this idea. Everything requires money. You have to pay bills. Everything involves spending, expenditure. Verse 7, chapter 6, verse 7, all the toil of man is for his mouth. Why are you working? Because you need to feed yourself and you need to feed the people in your home. You need to if you're a breadwinner, you need to put food on the table. He says, all the toil of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. And then he goes, for what advantage has the wise man over the fool? It's the same. Whether you're wise, whether you're a fool, adulting is real, people. You need to work to eat. And what does the poor man have who knows how to conduct himself before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes and the wandering of the appetite. This also, and here's his usual refrain, this also is a vanity. It is a vapor. It's havel in Hebrew. It's mist. And a striving after wind. All the toil of man is for his mouth, yet his appetite is not satisfied. It's a very interesting way to put it, doesn't it? Doesn't matter whether you're rich, doesn't matter whether you're earning enough, you're just working for the necessity. And maybe you have enough for more than just the necessity, for some luxuries, but guess what? Your appetite is never satisfied. First, he talks about the necessity of the mouth. That's why you're working, so that you won't starve. But then if you get more, if you're richer, it's still the same thing. Your appetites, you're going to continue to want things, and that's never going to be satisfied. No matter how hard you toil, no matter how much money you make. We need more than just food, but we are caught up with the present busyness. As it is for the wise, he says, so it is for the fool. There's no escaping the need to earn and to survive. To adult, as it were. But in the final analysis, all this toiling, there's no satisfaction for anyone. The eye sees what it wants, and it is well enough if it is only a seeing. But no, the appetite often wanders and is insatiable. And this also is vanity and striving after wind. And so the first thing we draw from this passage is money is required for everything. Every move you make, you're gonna spend one way or the other. And that's why we say to the kids, money has wings. And children, the earlier that you learn that, the better. Money has wings. Everything requires money. Under the sun, that is the first thing. You will see everybody that you see tomorrow on your way to work. They're also on their way to work. The reason why there's traffic, everyone is doing the same thing. Striving, toiling to put food on the table. Because that's just the way it is. That's the first thing Prophet tells us. Second, everyone has money problems. You're probably wondering, what do you mean everybody has money problems? I have money problems because I'm not earning enough, or I'm not where I want to be. But I think if I attain that particular pay grade, if I'm able to have enough disposable income, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be content. You ever think like that? Why do you work for that promotion? Why do you work for, why do you think about other business opportunities or racket? Because you have a goal, and you lie to yourself saying that once I reach that goal, I'm going to be okay. Really? That's not true. Everyone has money concerns. Look at verse 12 of chapter 5. He says, "Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much. But the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep." The contrast here is between the person who is a day worker, who receives just enough. He's living a hand-to-mouth existence, and the wealthy. And here we see Kohelet advancing, as it were, a lesson in contentment, or for the more pessimistic among us, a lesson in abandon. You see, if you're a day worker, what else can you do at the end of the day? Just sleep. Sleep it off. But the rich loses sleep over his or her money. Maybe he has investments in the stock market or in currency exchange. Maybe he is worried that there will be a bank run. You see, everyone has money problems. The problem of the poor is that they don't have enough. And because everything costs money, they are under pressure with all of the costs, all of the bills. On the other hand, you have the rich. They have enough to pay for whatever necessities are necessary, but they never feel secure because it can all go away any moment. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, verse 10, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also, as it says, is vanity. And then here, I want to explore with you, there are different sections here that Kohelet brings forward as examples. And so I want to explore with you here 3 case studies that support this idea that everyone has money problems, or that money causes problems for everyone. Look at the first one in chapter 5, verses 13 to 17. "There's a grievous evil," it says, "that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is the father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil that he may carry away in his hand. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go. And what gain is there to him who toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness, in much vexation, and sickness, and anger." So you see this picture, this person, he's amassed, or he's landed at some wealth, and then what does he do? He invests it, but then it all just dissolves in a bad venture. And then there's that added, heartbreak. He is a father of a son. And I'm reading this, and I think of myself. I'm a father of a son. And 3 daughters, not just one. And if you're a father, you're always thinking along those terms. Not just a father, but if you're a parent, you're always thinking along those terms. If you're working, if you have dependents, maybe you're not a father, you're not a daughter. You're not a father, not a parent. But you have dependents. You're supporting your younger siblings. You're supporting your parents. Okay? There's always that desire to provide for them. And this is really heartbreaking. He had the money, and then he invested it wrongly, unwisely, and then it's all gone now. And so, Kohelet says, all his days he eats in darkness, in much vexation, and sickness, and anger. What is the gain there for him who toils for the wind? Kohelet asks. It's like he's saying, isn't that all just economic shadow boxing? Amounts to nothing. What are you toiling for, my dear brothers and sisters? Are you toiling for your children? Are you toiling for other dependents? What is the assurance you have that what you earn now will last? That they will have the security you wish to provide for them. You see, based on this case study, doesn't matter whether you're rich or not, all of that, it can vanish in a moment and without notice. Case study number 1. Everyone has money problems. Case study number 2, look at chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. He continues, he says, there is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind. That's another way of saying this is quite common. A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions, and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires. Yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. And so go ahead, in case number 2, he says, this thing is quite common among men. They have wealth, they have possessions, they have honor. So this guy is better than the first guy, right? In case study number 1. He has wealth, he has possessions, he has honor. He lacks nothing that he desires. Yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them. We note here then that to have been given all these things, material possession, wealth, power, and honor, does not equate to having been so blessed by God. Materially rich, known in your industry, able to buy whatever you want, that doesn't equate to #blessed. If God does not give you the ability to actually enjoy them properly. The unbelieving also come to possession of these things. But this is not said to be blessing. On the contrary, it is a curse. And so there's a tinge of irony, if you will, in this. Maybe you are often tempted to covet what people you know or people you do not know personally have. Oh, look at them, they have a new car. Oh, look at them, they're earning this much. Oh, look at them, they seem to be able to buy whatever they want. That's all just externals. And if God will not give the joy to actually enjoy these things, it's actually not blessing, it's a curse. And that's what we see in case number 2. I'm reminded here of a song by Alanis Morissette. You know that song? The 96 hit, Ironic. The true genius of that song is that, ironically, the things that are sung in the lyrics are not ironic. And so, In 2013, two sisters, Rachel and Eliza Hurwitz, actually rewrote Alanis Morissette's hit, Ironic. And you could search for this on YouTube. It's now, the title is, It's Finally Ironic. Okay, let me read a few of the lyrics to you. They say, an old man turned 98. He won the lottery and died the next day from a severe paper cut from his lottery ticket. It's a black fly in your Chardonnay that was specifically purchased to repel black flies. It's a death row pardon that causes your demise because you leave the jail and get hit by a bus. It's that irony. You know, if you have wealth, you have possession, you have within your fingertips everything that you can desire, but deep inside there is no true enjoyment and use of these things. That is the most ironic life ever. And money gives you that kind of problems. The man in case study number 1 had a son who unfortunately did not have the chance to enjoy his father's wealth. Here this man leaves all of it to a stranger to enjoy. And Kohelet says, this is vanity. It's a grievous evil. And then case number 3. Case study number 3, chapter 6, verses 3 to 6. Let's read that. If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with life's good things, and he has no burial, I say that the stillborn child is better off than he. Wow. For it comes in vanity and goes in darkness, and in darkness its name is covered. Moreover, it has not seen the sun or known anything, yet it finds rest rather than he. Even though he should live 1,000 years twice over, yet enjoy no good, do not all go to the one place? Kohelet asks. You can father 100 children. You can, actually. And live many years, but end up having a broken family where no one is even left beside you when you die. No one's there to bury you. Now some say this is exaggeration. 100 children? Well, it is possible if you have multiple partners, which would explain the large number of descendants but the absence of an actual family. You know, the commentator Michael Eaton makes this remark, and I quote, despite family, longevity, and fame, life may so miscarry as to incur lifelong dissatisfaction and an unmourned death. End quote. A man like that may have been rich. This is why he was able to live a playboy's lifestyle. But he is no better, Kohelet says, than a stillborn child. In fact, the child born dead is better than he. It comes in vanity, it comes in meaninglessness, and goes in darkness. No suffering, no heartbreak, no other people in its life. Because there was no life to begin with. You know, John Paul Sartre wrote a play, Qui Close, No Exit. And there he is known for a phrase, hell is other people, he says. Hell is the other. And go ahead and say, look, the stillborn child is better off than everyone else because that stillborn child didn't have to endure the hell that is other people. It didn't have to endure the hell that other people would bring upon him because of the oppression, because of violation of justice and righteousness. He's better off. The stillborn child has not seen the sun or anything under it. All it does is rest. This is just reality. Everyone dies. And then chapter 6 verse 6, Kohelet says, even though he should live 1,000 years twice over, yet enjoy no good. It is just that. No good. Do not all go to the one place. The stillborn child got to the end through a shortcut. Everyone else has to endure everything and everyone else. And the rapper Shailin, the Christian rapper Shailin, wrote about this reality. The reality of being born in Adam. The reality of being in this fallen world. The reality of being under the tyranny of wealth and poverty. He says, we're cursed from our birth, sinning from the beginning. The womb to the tomb, depraved to the grave. Astray every day, every breath brings death. In Adam all die, in Adam all die. We're rebels like the devil, scheming like demons, prideful with our idols, disgusting with our lusting, twisted and sin-sick, selfish and helpless. In Adam all die, in Adam all die. And so, here in the second point, that is the overarching truth that we see. Everyone has money problems. You can be a rich man. You can be a poor man. But everyone has money problems. And at the end of the day, to what end? Everyone's gonna die. So like Kohelet is saying, it's like, it doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're poor, because under the sun, the bottom line is, it's not what's in the bank, the bottom line is that you're gonna die. And the better off person through it all is the stillborn child. Can you imagine the pessimist, the gloominess of this thought? But we should not forget that Kohelet here is making the observation of what it's like under the sun. Without a God principle, you're just going to be part of the rat race, working. You don't know why. Some of you are in education. Have your students ever come up to you and say, why do I have to study? Why do I have to pass my exams? Why do I need to move up to the next grade? Why do I need to finish elementary? Why do I have to finish high school? Why do I have to get into a good college? Why do I have to be trained in a particular craft? Why do I have to land a good job eventually? To what end? Haven't you had students come up to you and say, I'm gonna die? What's this all for? You see, we never ask that question, do we? And Kohelet here forces the question on us. You think the bottom line of it all is just money? That's not the reality. Money has to do with everything. And that's the reality that everyone has money problems. But under the sun, we're all equal. Under the sun, eventually we're going to be worm food. So the stillborn child is better off. No exams, no puyat, no tutoring, no horrible boss. That's what Kohelet is saying. No terrible siblings, no bad parents. Don't you wish you were just a stillborn child with no money problems? But you see, that is the inevitable conclusion that you will arrive at if you are just living under the sun. And the pressures of money and wealth and poverty are pressing in on you. You may have it, but you can't enjoy it. Not properly, at least. And you don't have it, and you're worrying about it every moment. So where do we get to? Well, the last point, thankfully, there seems to be a solution that Kohelet advances for us. So point 3, every money problem's solution. Money is a servant, little kids. Now look at verses 18 and 20. This is like the relief. This is like the portion that gives us a bit of relief under the sun in this whole context of just gloom and doom. Look at verse 18, chapter 5. Behold, I have seen what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possession and power to enjoy them, and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil, this is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. Kohelet advances this idea. Because everything requires money, it is wearisome. Money has wings. Because everyone has money problems. It's just there to hurt you. Money has thorns. The solution to every money problem is this: perspective. The power to enjoy what you have. To have mastery, as it were, over our material wealth and resources, rather than to be mastered by them. And this is not idealistic, in the sense that there will be no setbacks or challenges that threaten one's resources. That's actually what you see in verse 20. He says, for he will not much remember the days of his life, although he will still have to go through the miseries. That's just a reality of life, you know. Kohelet's ever the realist. But he will not much remember that, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. And so what's the solution? Money has wings, and you don't, and you're chasing after it. Money has thorns, and so whether you have it or not, it's gonna prick you. So what's the solution? This perspective. God-given joy in the heart that will banish the miseries away. But unfortunately, if you're just reading this here in the Old Testament, Kohelet doesn't tell you how you're going to get at that. He tells you the ideal. He says, this is what's good and fitting, to eat, drink, and find enjoyment in our work, in all the toil with which we toil under the sun. The few days of life that God gives us. Life's short. Enjoy, Kohelet says. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth, possession, and power to enjoy them, to accept his lot, contentment, rejoice in his toil. This is the gift of God. But the question is, how does one arrive at having such a perspective? How does one actually begin to enjoy the fruits of one's labor? And many of you here are working. Those of you who aren't working, if you're studying, eventually you're going to have to work. Those of you who don't have a job, you have bills to pay, and so eventually you're going to have to work. So it's a very pertinent question for us to ask, right? How do I find meaning? How do I find accomplishment in the work that I do? How do I actually enjoy the fruit of my labor? And the answer is, you gotta have the right perspective. A perspective that you will never find under the sun. So where do we find this perspective if it's not under the sun? Well, Jesus gives this perspective on the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 19, you remember that portion? Jesus says, Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. Verse 20, but lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? No one can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. That's what Jesus says. And so we begin now to arrive at that solution to all of money's problems. The problem we see Kohelet advancing for us, the reason why everyone has money problems is because everybody has that perspective wherein they are trying to serve money. What they're doing essentially is they are propping money up as their ultimate, as their God. And that's idolatry. And because money has thorns, it's going to continue to keep pricking you until the day when it kills you. And so Jesus says you cannot serve two masters. Either you're going to love the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and man. And so, as we consider this portion of Ecclesiastes today, the question for you and for me, brothers and sisters, is determine for yourself today what or who is your master. You can only serve one, and all the others should be at your service. You see, that's the thing with money. You know, the common cliche is that money is the root of all evil. Money is the root of all evil. But if money is the root of all evil, why does the church want it? You know? You've heard that on social media. But really, what the text says is the love of money is the root of all evil. So what? The Bible is not so much against money, because money can be a good gift from God. The Bible is actually against the love of money over and against God. The Bible is actually against the love of wealth over and against God. The Bible is against the love of whatever it is that catches your fancy over and against God. Because that is idolatry. And at the end of the day, unless we have this perspective that money is not our master, it is a good gift, and like all other good gifts, these are good servants. Money has been used in the service of the mission of God for many, many generations to the glory of God. It is possible. But you have to have that perspective. And so the challenge that we find here in this passage and in what Jesus says is this. Determine for yourself today, who is your master? If money is your master, it's going to continue to hurt you. But if God is your master, and even your wealth and your resources are put under the lordship of Christ, then you can begin to actually see that these are meant to be good gifts and to be enjoyed. Life's going to be hard, but you can enjoy them if you have the right perspective. And so that is my prayer for you today. Heed the words of Christ. No man can serve two masters. No one can serve money and God. Let's pray. Father, we give you thanks for this portion in the book of Ecclesiastes. Indeed, the preacher makes some very astute observations, some very universal observations with regard to money and wealth, poverty, how money has to do with everything nowadays. Even back then, and even so now, money is required for most every activity. And also we've learned that money is the cause of a lot of evil, the cause of a lot of pain, and everybody has money problems. And Lord, if we would just go ahead in our life, not mindful of you, not mindful of what your word has to say about how money is not to be our master, but to be mastered under the lordship of Christ. Lord, we will continue to just hit ourselves against the wall, time and time again. There's no security for us in money. There's no purpose for us in wealth. No, we must anchor instead our security and our hope in Christ alone and be mastered by Him, so that all these other good gifts ultimately are good servants used for your glory. So I pray this for my brothers and sisters here today. Lord, perhaps we've been forgetful of these truths. Lord, reorder our minds now and our focus to see things with this eternal perspective, with this right perspective. Lord, may it cause your words with you to dwell in our hearts, in our imaginations, in our meditations, for the rest of the day, and even for the days in the week to come. We pray all these things in Jesus' name.